Hey guys, it's been a while. So there's been a lot of changes this year. Backtrack. There's been a lot of changes since late last year. We moved to Colorado, and by the title of this video, you already know, but we're pregnant! So in this video, I'm just gonna kind of go over our first trimester. Mine isn't as entertaining, I guess you could say, or as rough as some people's have been. My first trimester was actually pretty easy until the end. But anyways, let's backtrack to the beginning. So 1 to 4 weeks, didn't really notice anything. The only thing that made me take a pregnancy test in the first place was I was having mind-splitting headaches. Like, there's headaches and then there were headaches. It felt like there was just something squeezing my head, and I get migraines, but it's the best way I can describe it. I think they're called tension headaches, but they just never stopped. So I had those. I didn't have a lot of nausea. It was only like with the headaches, so I honestly can't tell you if it was more so nausea from pregnancy or nausea because I just couldn't get my head to stop pounding. So that was my main sign, was headaches. Another big thing was my pelvis hurt, like TMI, but you know, we're talking about pregnancy here. Obviously we all know how we get pregnant, and if you don't know bodily functions, then you probably shouldn't be watching this video. But I always had bad period pain, and it was basically like my period was on its way, but 2 weeks out from when my period would show up. So again, didn't think anything of it. It's not necessarily out of the blue for me. It honestly just depends on my cycle and whether my cramps are gonna be like pure hell in the beginning, or if they're gonna kind of usually it's really bad the first and second day, but the fact that it was like 2 weeks ahead of time combined with the headaches, I was like, okay, something's not right. And I was so tired. Like, I'd wipe my counters and I'd be winded. It was that bad. So I'd come home from work, I'd take a nap, I'd cook dinner, I'd want to take a nap, we'd be watching a show, I'd be falling asleep. So those were like my main 3 signs, were headaches, the pelvic pain, and then my being tired. Obviously I'm at that point in pregnancy where I just can't form sentences, so bear with me. But those were the main 3 signs. And then I pretty much took a test just to see what it would say. My husband was driving to Colorado that day, so he was already on the road. I think he was like 12 hours in. It was a Saturday. I got up, I took a test, didn't expect anything, and of course there it was positive. So that was a day. We've, not to like trigger warning really quick, we have had miscarriages in the past, so the fact that I found out when my husband was going to Colorado I wouldn't be there for another month or 2, it really, I was shook, okay? I did not know what to do. I was freaking out. I was nervous all the time. I think I tested like 10 times. I'll show you, I don't have all of my pregnancy tests anymore. I kept 2, but like we were in the middle of a move, so I didn't want to keep 20 tests on hand. So I just kept my 2 digitals. But I tested for about 2 weeks to make sure my levels were rising, because we were also in the process of switching health providers. My husband went back active duty, so it was just, things were a mess at that time. There were a lot of unknowns, and it was hard because my husband tried his best to support me and go through my anxiety with me, but he was all the way in another state. So I had my circle of friends at work, but that was pretty much it. And then so 1 to 4 weeks was kind of uneventful. 5 weeks is when I started getting scared because I'm like, okay, why am I not getting nauseous? Well, that week I got sick twice, and then that's when I convinced myself. I was like, okay girl, this baby's gonna be fine. So I got sick twice at the 5-week mark, and then 6 weeks, my boobs hurt so bad. Like, I couldn't wear a bra, I couldn't shower, putting lotion on was just, I sat there like this the entire time. It was rough. That was definitely like, I didn't expect, they tell you, or if you watch videos, they tell you like, this is a thing. But I was like, girl, you lying. It ain't that bad. It is that bad. So that was like the 6th week was really bad pain. Like, it was just uncomfortable. I was still cramping. I would, again, TMI, but every time I would, you know, go to the bathroom to like pee, I'd wipe and like I'd expect to see blood. The first trimester was really, really hard for me. It really tested me mentally, and and keep in mind here, we didn't have our first appointment until I was 9 weeks. So I did go to the emergency room and I got to see that there was a living fetus, but I didn't actually have like prenatal care until I was 9 weeks. So I was just always convincing myself something's wrong, something's not right, and always pretty much scared. And that is the worst feeling in your first trimester, because they say pregnancy is a beautiful thing, and it should be. It should hands down be a beautiful thing. Like, embrace every week, take notes if you need to take notes, and enjoy it. But at the same time, it's such a scary thing, and I can't imagine the women who do this alone. Hats off to you. Even with my husband being, again, states away, he was still actively involved, checking in on me, FaceTime, calming me down when things were just getting too, my anxiety was just rising. Like, he did everything he could to be involved, and I can't imagine not having a support system and not having somebody to keep you grounded. My friends were amazing. My mom was amazing. I told my sister was actually who knew first, and she was amazing about it. Like, everybody did I'm just so grateful for the support system I had, and for the women who have to do this alone, hats off to you, because the first trimester, pregnancy is a scary thing. Like, it honestly is, especially when you're going through after a loss. It tricks your mind into doing some crazy things. So I just had to throw that in there. Like, you women are amazing. Keep doing you. Keep grinding. That baby, I wish you all a safe labor, a safe pregnancy in general. Like, truly, from the bottom of my heart, you got this, and you keep grinding, because I don't know how you guys do it. But my husband, he deserves all the praises in the world. He's such an amazing man. So 6 weeks was mostly just pelvic pain. My breast started hurting. 7 weeks, I didn't notice anything different at 7 weeks. Everything that pretty much was already going, except I was really thirsty and I didn't like water. I wouldn't say it was nausea, because it wasn't like I was like on the edge of like getting sick, but I couldn't stand the taste of water. I didn't want it anywhere near me. The thought of drinking water was just, I didn't want it. So I was mostly relying on like things like Powerade, Gatorade, sports drinks. Of course now I can't think of the main drink that I would drink all the time. Body Armor. That was my go-to, the coconut water in it. I love that stuff, but I kind of got tired of the flavors now. So 7 weeks, 8 weeks was our big scare, or at least I should say my big scare. I started spotting at 8 weeks, so I had to go to the emergency room, kind of what I was talking about earlier. So I went to the emergency room, and yeah, it was fine. There was, they told me it was viable. The heart, you could see a little flicker of the heart. Now, I don't know what this is for everybody, but for me personally, even when I actually got my prenatal care and started seeing a regular OBGYN, I wasn't able to hear the heartbeat until after 12 weeks. So they would show me like the flickering of the heart, and it's literally like this big and you just see it flicker. They showed me that, but they couldn't actually play it or anything like that. So we did that at 8 weeks. And then 9 weeks, my husband drove down. So he came back to collect. He came back to get me and the dogs because I cannot drive highways. So he came back to get me and the dogs, and we did that trip in a night, driving from Arizona to Colorado. So we came back, we got to Colorado, we stayed in a hotel for a little bit, and that is when all hell broke loose pretty much. So at 9 weeks, right before my appointment, 8 to 9 weeks, I got sick every morning. That was like my daily routine. I'd get out of bed and instantly I'd get sick, and it'd only be one and done. So I'd get sick in the morning, be over it, go get something to eat, and be okay for the rest of the day. There were times where I'd have like those nausea or dizzy spells, but it wasn't anything like bad. It was manageable. I'd drink something and be okay. So up until that point, my pregnancy was easy. Like, other than the anxiety, all the other symptoms, I'd do it again. It really wasn't that bad. But after I saw my OBGYN at 9 weeks. My husband couldn't go because active duty, unfortunately, they're owned by the government. So he couldn't get off work. So I went. I think he was in the field that day. But I went to my first appointment alone. They did the dating scan. Again, we got to see the little heartbeat flicker. Got our first pictures, and I'll probably insert them somewhere up here, 1 or 2 of them, so you can see. The baby looked like a little gummy bear. It did not look like a baby at all. He was so little. I'm gonna bleep that out. But the baby was so little, and it's so hard to explain, because again, I did have like a quick ultrasound to make sure that they were okay when I went to the ER. But when we did the dating scan, it felt more real. And I think that's when I finally let myself breathe. So I fell in love in that instant. Like, I just knew we were gonna do everything we could to make sure everything was okay. So we did the dating scan, went back into the office, and we pretty much just talked the entire time. They asked me my medical history, anything I knew about my mom, her mom, my dad's side, which I don't know much about my dad's side, so I wasn't much help there. But it was more of just like sitting down talking, and it was with a nurse. It wasn't even with my like OB, which I don't have a primary OB. I just see everybody in the office. So that was a quick experience, 45 minutes I want to say. Came back home, and that's pretty much like the highlights of my first trimester. Since 9 weeks on to, I want to say 14, I was getting sick once a day. I started tolerating water, but honestly, ginger ale was my best friend. I just didn't have the taste for water. It didn't sound appealing, which is really bad because in pregnancy, all they tell you to do is drink a gallon of water a day, and I might have had a glass. So I couldn't do it. Like, the thought of water, we weren't friends. We weren't friends. That changed in my second trimester though, but that'll be another video because I'm still technically in my second trimester. I'm currently 24 weeks right now, and it'll be a separate video of what I went through my second trimester. I feel like that was more interesting, to be honest. But that was it. It was just anxiety, headaches, tenderness, cramping, and it is so hard to convince yourself, oh, it's just growing pains, when you know what loss feels like. Even if you don't know what loss feels like, cramping is you know, they always tell you watch out for cramping, watch out for bleeding. So like the minute you have cramping, and it could be slight cramping too, it doesn't have to be like where you're balled over crying. It could be like slight discomfort and you're like, oh my God, oh my goodness, here we go, I can't do this again. But it's been, I'm so grateful. Like, we have a little fighter in here. So that's pretty much been the wrap up for my 12 weeks up to 13 weeks. I think they consider 13 weeks your first try, 13 or 14. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But I think that's where they do the cutoff, and then you start into your second trimester. It's so confusing. There's so many different like articles and stuff on it. This is another thing I got from my OB. It's just a pregnancy book. And everything that they think you should expect is pretty much in here. Tells you the same thing about when you should go to the hospital. And literally it says cramping on here. So this book, honestly, it gave me more anxiety. So I really didn't try to look at it at my first trimester, because every little symptom, I was like, oh my God, do I need to go to the emergency room? So it's been, first trimester was a ride, but that's pretty much it. My next videos, I'm gonna try to film them in the nursery, but we're still setting things up, so it's just a hot mess right now. But that way you don't have this boring blank wall behind me. So I am gonna try to get the nursery set up, but until then, I'm just gonna film right here for a little bit, give you guys updates. My second trimester update should be out in 4 or 5 weeks. Like I said, I'm 24 weeks, so I really just, my pregnancy hasn't been as eventful as some ladies, so I don't have a lot to talk about, so it's just easier for me to break it up in trimesters. And then I just thought this would be cute to look back at when he's born, so I can kind of see, or you know, when he's older and he's a child, to look back and see all the pieces and kind of compare and see if my next pregnancy is as easy as this one has been, or even maybe my third trimester, that's more eventful. But I just thought I'd get on here, update you guys on what's going on, and go from there. But this is my first video back, and I still can't believe to this day that we're pregnant. So stay tuned for the next video. Thank you so much for listening, and take care, guys. Again, I hope you guys had a great holiday.